Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whomever, wherever you may be. Welcome to the Daily Score. This is the channel where we analyze hot topics in the media and see if they were taken out of context, reported accurately, or if they were deliberately deceptive, and do an objective analysis on the situation. Our topic today is free speech. What is it? Where did it come from? What did our founders have to say on the subject, and is free speech being stifled in today's society? All this and more coming up in the next 15 minutes. Now, where does free speech come from? Well, let's start with the First Amendment. The First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. When writing the Constitution, several of the framers refused to sign the Constitution without the Bill of Rights, which would declare the inherent rights of the people. James Madison, who's the father of the Constitution, was responsible for drafting and editing the Constitution. He proposed the Bill of Rights before Congress, and subsequently the First Amendment. Our founders found the rights of the people so vitally important that they actually put it in our founding documents. Now, by doing this, they're saying that the rights aren't granted by the people, they aren't granted by the government, they're granted by God and are inherent to all human beings. By doing this, they disallowed any ability for the government to take away these rights. If the government has the ability to grant you the right or a freedom, they certainly have the ability to take it away. By stating that these rights are inherent to every person and are given to us by God, they are saying that no man, no mere mortal can ever take these rights away. Now, why is free speech important? I think Thomas Jefferson said it best when he stated this: the only security for all is a free press. Now, why did he say this? He said this because if you have a singular controlling force, controlling what you see and hear, ultimately all the information that you ingest, you take the aspect of research out of it and the ability to learn something for yourself. Now, once you've taken the ability to learn and independently think out of the way, you end up blindly following whomever your current master is. Free speech gives us the ability to refute lies, dishonesty, and evil and inject truth without the fear of being censored, jailed, or even worse. Now let's take a look at what Benjamin Franklin said. If all printers were determined not to print anything until they were sure it would offend no one, there would be very little printed at all. Well, let's take a look at what this means for today. You can see its meaning in today's society with how politically correct we've been told we need to be when talking to other people, or simply expressing our views. This is why free speech was absolute, according to our founding father, James Madison. If we are told to worry about absolutely everything that we say, whether or not we offend someone, we would never get to say anything at all, especially in today's society where everybody has to have a safe place to retreat to if they've become offended. This in and of itself is a form of censorship, as whomever is making up these arbitrary rules is tailoring what we can and can't say in today's society, in a supposedly free society. Now, should free speech be ultimately censored in a free and open society? And no, I'm not talking about yelling fire in a crowded theater. We all know that a call to action that results in the harming of others, that's not allowed. You get freaking arrested for it. But Thomas Jefferson said this: the press confined to the truth needs no other legal restraint. The public judgment will correct false reasonings and opinions on the full hearing of all parties, and no other indefinite line can be drawn between the inestimable liberty and the press in its demoralizing licentiousness. Well, what did Thomas Jefferson mean by this? Let's take a step back and think about this logically and intelligently. What would be the point of suppressing speech in a free and open society? We see Facebook, we see Twitter and Instagram, and all the major tech companies censoring anyone who they don't agree with.
As you know, I have long been concerned about Twitter's pattern of censoring and silencing individual Americans with whom Twitter disagrees. But 2 weeks ago, Twitter, and to a lesser extent Facebook, crossed a threshold that is fundamental in our country. 2 weeks ago, Twitter made the unilateral decision to censor the New York Post in a series of 2 blockbuster articles, both alleging evidence of corruption against Joe Biden, the first concerning Ukraine, the second concerning communist China. And Twitter made the decision, number one, to prevent users, any user, from sharing those stories. And number two, you went even further and blocked the New York Post from sharing on Twitter its own report. So, Mr. Dorsey, your ability is you have the power to force a media outlet. Let's be clear. The New York Post isn't just some random guy tweeting. The New York Post has the fourth highest circulation of any newspaper in America. The New York Post is over 200 years old. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And your position is that you can sit in Silicon Valley and demand of the media that you can tell them what stories they can publish, and you can tell the American people what reporting they can hear. Can the New York Post post on their Twitter account?
If they go into their account.
No is your answer to that. No, unless they genuflect and agree with your dictates. Let me ask you something. You claimed it was because of a hacked materials policy. I find that facially highly dubious and clearly employed in a deeply partial way. Did Twitter block the distribution of the New York Times' story a few weeks ago that purported to be based on copies of President Trump's tax returns?
We didn't find that a violation of our terms of service and this policy in particular, because it was reporting about the material. It wasn't distributing the material.
Okay, well, that's actually not true. They posted what they purported to be original source materials, and federal law, federal statute makes it a crime, a federal felony, to distribute someone's tax returns against their knowledge. So that material was based on something that was distributed in violation of federal law, and yet Twitter gleefully allowed people to circulate that. But when the article was critical of Joe Biden, Twitter engaged in rampant censorship and silencing.
So, as you can very clearly see, not only is the same standard of censorship not applied to both sides, one is completely censored while the other is not, but censorship is based upon if your content and ideals align themselves with the current agenda of Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. These three companies are no longer simply media companies. They control the flow of information throughout the entire world. They add and remove what they want you as an individual to ingest. So why is this? What's the point? In a free and open society, the only point to censoring is to control what it's heard, when it's heard, and how it's heard. In a free and open society, the greatest fact check are the people in the society, as anyone can take the time to dive into it and research the subject. They can post or rebut or concur citing evidence. What you do when you have a company whom the people view as an authority is take searching and researching out of the equation completely. Once you do this, the people no longer think for themselves. They blindly believe and they blindly follow whomever happens to be in charge. You, by default, think of them as an authority on the subject. There is zero reason for censoring anybody unless you want to control the people, control what they see, hear, and believe, period. Are the free speech rights of people being suppressed in today's society? Well, I don't think you have to look too far to find the answer to that question. Conservatives are being fact-checked on every social media platform there is today, with the exception of a few who still value our First Amendment rights. If there's something false with what's being said, it's we the people who can ultimately do the fact check on an individual. We are all in the middle of an information war, one where the big tech giants have the ability to silence everybody that they don't agree with. The whole world in its entirety uses their multi-billion-dollar platforms. But we found out today, January 10th, that just censoring someone wasn't good enough. Censoring a group of people isn't good enough. They went as far as censoring everybody who didn't toe the party line. Everybody from the presidential lawyers to the staff to the people who spoke in support of the president himself. Think of that for a minute. These companies, because they didn't like what the president of the free world had to say, in a free and open society, completely and totally 100% shut him down under the guise of safety. Who are they to determine what is and isn't good for me to hear, for me and my family to hear? I and I alone will make that determination. These actions are unprecedented in a free and open society. Folks, also remember this. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." In other words, liberty is the most precious gift we as Americans have, paid for with the blood of our fathers and forefathers. Cherish and fight for this, for once it's gone, it's rarely taken back. Please give me your take and what you think down in the comments. I am a brand new channel and would really like to expand this, so if you could like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards, I'd really appreciate it. Take care and have a good one.